For centuries, right, alchemists were chasing this ultimate prize, the power to create artificial life. It was a secret so closely guarded that it just kind of faded into myth. But what if the recipe, the actual instructions, were hiding in plain sight this whole time?
So, the creature they were trying to create, it was called a homunculus. That literally just means little man. And listen, this wasn't some kind of metaphor. The goal, the honest-to-goodness goal, was to create a fully formed, tiny human being, completely bypassing natural birth, using nothing but the secret arts of alchemy.
And, believe it or not, someone actually wrote down the recipe, a really specific 4-step process. Okay, so look at this. Step 1. You take a sealed vial, and then you bury it in horse manure for 40 days, apparently for the perfect incubation heat. The text claims that after that time, a tiny, transparent, and living little humanoid would start to form, and that it would eventually even learn how to speak. Wild, right?
Okay, now here's what makes this so wild. The guy who supposedly wrote this, he wasn't some random mystic out in the woods. The recipe is credited to Paracelsus, a giant of the Renaissance. I mean, we call him the father of toxicology. But here's the twist. This man of science was also allegedly a high-ranking member of a secret society, the Rosicrucians.
So that connection changes everything, doesn't it? It suggests the homunculus wasn't just one guy's bizarre little fantasy. No, it hints at something much bigger, a kind of lost science, a secret knowledge protected and passed down through generations by some of the most brilliant minds in history.
All right, I want you to think for a second about the giants of the scientific revolution. The very minds who gave us gravity, chemistry, pretty much the foundations of our entire modern world.
What if all that public work was only half the story? This whole idea suggests that behind the scenes, these titans of logic and reason were secretly obsessed with the ancient mystical art of alchemy.
And listen, this isn't just speculation. We actually have their letters. We're talking Sir Isaac Newton, the guy who literally defined gravity, secretly writing back and forth with Robert Boyle, one of the founders of modern chemistry. And what were they talking about? Alchemy. And they weren't discussing it like it was some fantasy novel. They were treating it like a lost truth, with the absolute utmost seriousness and secrecy.
So, if guys like Newton and Boyle were trying to rediscover the science, who were the original guardians? Well, the trail seems to lead back centuries, all the way to the legendary Knights Templar. Now, their public mission, as you can see, was to protect pilgrims, but their secret mission, that was allegedly something else entirely, to guard ancient Gnostic wisdom.
And this completely reframes their most controversial symbol, the Baphomet. The church accused them of worshiping this demonic idol. But according to this school of thought, Baphomet was never a demon. It was actually a symbol for Sophia, the Greek word for wisdom, the very Gnostic knowledge they were sworn to protect. So what exactly was this Gnostic secret they were supposedly guarding? I mean, this wasn't just a slightly different set of beliefs. We're talking about a radical reinterpretation of reality itself, an idea so dangerous it was officially declared a heresy.
At its core, Gnosticism had this really shocking idea, that our physical world is basically a flawed prison, and it was created by a lesser, kind of ignorant god. In their view, the serpent in the Garden of Eden wasn't the bad guy. He was a liberator, offering up secret knowledge, or gnosis, as the only way to escape. Yeah, you can see why that was considered a little dangerous.
So this timeline kind of lays out the hidden family tree of this doctrine. It supposedly kicks off in ancient Egypt with Thoth, the god of wisdom, then it flows into these Gnostic sects. From there, it's allegedly adopted by the Templars, and then, centuries later, it's revived by the Rosicrucians, which, remember, is the very group Paracelsus belonged to.
But look, this isn't just a story about secret clubs meeting in dark rooms. The trail supposedly leads right into the halls of power, connecting this hidden knowledge to one of the most famous royal dynasties in all of Europe.
We all know this symbol, right? The Tudor rose. It's the symbol of Henry VIII, Queen Elizabeth I, an emblem of English power for more than 100 years.
And this is the Rosy Cross, the main symbol of the Rosicrucians. A rose on a cross. The visual similarity is, well, it's pretty striking, to say the least.
So you have to ask yourself, is this just a coincidence, or is it a clue, hiding in plain sight, linking the powerful Tudor dynasty directly to the secret Rosicrucian Brotherhood?
And when you actually look inside Queen Elizabeth's court, the connections just seem to get stronger.
I mean, her most trusted advisor was John Dee, a famous alchemist who claimed he could talk to angels. Her Lord Chancellor, Francis Bacon, a guy who helped invent the scientific method, was also apparently deeply steeped in all these esoteric traditions.
And this leads to what might be the boldest claim in this whole narrative, that Francis Bacon and his inner circle were put in charge of editing the King James Bible, and that they used that opportunity to embed their secret Gnostic knowledge right into the foundational text of the entire English-speaking world.
So, what does all this add up to? If you follow this thread, it paints a picture of history that is completely different from the one we all learned in school.
It's a story where the secret of creating life is guarded for centuries by groups like the Templars and Rosicrucians, where that same knowledge goes on to influence royal dynasties like the Tudors, and is then ultimately encoded into the very fabric of our culture, from Shakespeare's plays to the Bible itself.
Let's just circle all the way back to the core idea, which is stated right here in this 16th century text. The belief that humans could be born without natural fathers and mothers, all through the art and expertise of an alchemist. A pretty shocking idea, but one that these incredibly influential people apparently took very, very seriously.
And that number? 500. For 500 years, from Paracelsus all the way through the age of Newton, these ideas didn't just survive in the shadows, they thrived, influencing science, politics, and royalty.
Which, of course, brings us to one last big question. This story presents this whole chain of evidence, suggesting a radical secret has been shaping our world from behind the curtain. And if any of it is true, well, it just makes you wonder what other huge truths might be hiding right there in plain sight.